Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
You're one breakthrough away from your next six-figure year, and maybe it's a better offer, a sharper sales process, or finally cracking client acquisition. Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets, where every single week we hand you the strategies, the frameworks, and the real-world plays that are working right now for coaches just like you. I am your host, the Road Dog, with none other than the legendary Karl Bryan, a man who can coach a business through anything, except apparently a decision about what to have for lunch. Chutes, welcome to the show.
Chutes, that may or may not be true, according to my wife, by the way. There we go.
You know, it's probably even a tougher question than what do you want is what do you want for lunch? Like that is, especially if you're asking your wife. But anyways,
I agree. I agree. Anywho, my back is still killing me from the old ladies section situation. I'll have you know. I had a lot of people laugh at that one. Oh my gosh.
We don't need to rehash. I think some things are just, best left in the past. So, folks, if you want to know the amazing way in which Karl hurt his back, feel free to listen to the last episode of Business Coaching Secrets.
Or not, Chutes,
or not. Yes, or perhaps just miss the intro. There you go. Hey, listen, we were just chatting kind of off the air before we got going here about a couple new programs that you guys at Focused are just launching. I've taken a peek. Wow. That's all I got to say about that. But can you just talk a little bit more about it? Just let the folks know, sort of, not that we want to do too much of a plug here, but this is too good not to share.
We will. There we go. Yeah, not too much of a plug, but we'll give them a plug. Okay, two new programs. I'll tell you one, it's been on my lips for 10 years. So I do think that I've spoken it into existence. Thanks to a fabulous team behind me, by the way, led up by none other than Miss Tori Mathis. Legend. But so it's referred to it as the non-franchise franchise, officially called the Launch Factory. So that is a program. So I got a background in franchising, especially with AI and people getting displaced by AI, worried about getting displaced by AI. What are they doing? People are starting companies like they never have before, and franchises are selling like hotcakes, right? So why does somebody buy a franchise? Step by step, ABC, 1, 2, 3, paint by numbers direction. And the stats are out there. Like you've got a better chance of having success if you buy a franchise than if you don't. But what the numbers don't tell you is that they include Subway and McDonald's and 1-800-GOT-JUNK and some very successful franchises in that. And the truth is that 80% of franchises that are sold, it's a bad experience, quite possibly a horrific one. And I would dare say those numbers are greater than that, right? But the bottom line, and again, so they have a better chance of success, but define success. And by the time they pay the 12% royalties and the $80,000 up front, sign a 2-year non-compete, spend a bunch of, have a look through disclosure documents, etc. Anyway, so it's not saying it's a wildly profitable experience. What they are saying is that they do get up and going a little better than the average bear. Well, what we did is we have built, just think the non-franchise franchise where you've got franchise level step-by-step instruction. Again, ABC 1, 2, 3, step-by-step paint by numbers direction, but then no need to spend, $50,000, $80,000 up front to start a service-based company. Think mobile dog grooming, think landscaping, etc. Anyway, so, and by the way, 5% of the population start a company. That means that 95% do not. This is a product for the 95%. So as a business coach, if you thought it would be a little bit easier, if you didn't just have to go to existing businesses, but you could go to the Smiths and the Joneses and the Andersons on your street and say, have you ever thought about starting a company? And they have. And if your kids ever thought about starting a company, and they have too, this might be a way to give them the step-by-step instruction they need. But see, the other thing about franchising that's so common is that it's wonderful for 9 months, and then they spend the next 9 years trying to get out of it. And one of the biggest things is like a franchise is all about, think hallways. And what can't you do through a hallway is every time you try to go to the left to the right, you get bounced back to the middle. So when you want to put lettuce on your burger, the answer's no, 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 no from head office. And the way you do it in Nashville, and the way you do it in LA, and the way you do it in New York, and the way you do it in Toronto and Vancouver and Calgary and Sydney and London, are all going to be a little bit different. So the franchising hallways are great to a degree, but they can be wildly frustrating once somebody gets up and rocking. So building their own business with the step-by-step instruction probably sounds like a pretty good idea. And again, as a business coach, if you were able to go to the Smiths and the Joneses on your street, no doubt you could see how that would be a lot easier to be able to hit your financial milestones. So anyway, so that's the Launch Factory. And then the other one we launched that we just talked about, exit acceleration software. The silver tsunami is amongst us. Translation, a lot of people hitting the age of 60, 65, 70, 75 and thinking about exiting their company, wanting to exit their company, but they don't have a roadmap to do it. Again, 80% of businesses, but it's really closer to 95%. But the vast majority of businesses are just in no way, shape, or form exit ready. Nobody's going to come in and buy it up, right? And by the way, 3 reasons a business is not sellable, not profitable, not systematized, too owner reliant. So we have built exit acceleration software to help business owners get exit ready. And Road Dog, like you said, you had a look, but it is like step-by-step ABC, and it's really, it's a pretty powerful program. If we go by, both of which are still in beta, not ready for Hollywood yet, but testing better than we could have expected. And we'll be ready for Hollywood soon. And pretty awesome, as you saw. So, and they will continue to get better and get improved, and they've got AI integrated all throughout them. So anyway, Chutes, that's the 2 new programs. Very excited. And by the way, that we always talk about the operating system to be installed. Guess what the foundation of those 2 programs, and of course our signature program, is? And it's the operating system being installed. If you want to create an exit ready business, it needs to be profitable, needs to be systematized, less owner reliant. The operating system solves that problem for you. So it's not like we're taking people out into left field. So Chutes, those are the 2 programs. That's what we got. And exciting times at focus.com, bud.
Well, it's funny too. You mentioned the massive amounts of businesses that are going to be looking to exit. There's a local one here I just heard of last week. And when I heard what it sold for, I was just shocked. But at the same time, not really. It's how little that he's getting for his business. But the problem is he is the business. No systems, no processes, no nothing in place. You're basically just buying goodwill at that point. And it's wild to think how many businesses operate just like that. So,
yep. Yeah. And the good news, though, you give them an 18-month run rate, and you'd be surprised that if you got a hold of that company, you could create something pretty exciting pretty quickly, whereas multiple would increase wildly, right? With the right, it's just like selling a house. You know what I mean? Like there's a way to do it and a way not to do it. You got to do it in the right way, right? So, anyway.
Speaking of doing things the right way, last week, we talked about recruiting versus applying. Got a ton of feedback on that. Just want to see if, maybe after kind of thinking about it and seeing the feedback, if you had any further thoughts on that.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe I'll frame it. So recruitment versus applying. The New England Patriots don't put an application out to say, hey, is there any wide receivers out there? and then look through the applications. Although, by the way, I just watched Ted Lasso, and they did exactly that for their women's soccer team. But anyways, assume that's not the case. What do the New England Patriots do, and what does the college football team do, and the hockey team, and the baseball team, and the cricket team, and the volleyball team, and all the different sporting teams? What do? They recruit, right? They don't look for applications; they recruit. And looking at your business in that frame where you're recruiting people, and the frame that I gave, like I took on a couple new staff members recently, we didn't set it out for applications. I headhunted them, I called them, I recruited them, and I brought them in working swimmingly, right? Like my first ever business coach made over 300 grand in the first 6 months. And by the way, this is way back in 2006, not 12 months, but 6 months, made over 300 grand. But the important part of the story is that, again, it wasn't an application process. I headhunted him. I recruited him, right? Brought in the right guy that had a really great value proposition, was going to business owners already and then not selling them, a high ticket kind of item like coaching, like consulting, like framing up their business, and bingo, bango, bongo. Absolutely killed it. By the way, the second half of the year wasn't nearly as exciting as the first half. Very, very busy is the reason why, and probably pretty obvious. Anyways, yeah, so that's maybe if we parlay that into coaching, um, application would be the equivalent of going to the networking group. Why? Because whoever's there becomes your prospect, right? Like that's fine, and you will get clients, and no doubt you do get clients, but I'd recruit. And then who would I recruit? You've heard me say it before, you hear me say it again. The people who are advertising, I'm going directly to them. I'm not hoping they show up to the networking function when I'm there, or the golf course when I'm there, or the yacht club when I'm there. I'm recruiting them, right? They're spending money on advertising. They're showing that they're willing to spend money to try grow their business, right? People are nominated for awards. There's all kinds of small business awards in your community. You may or may not be familiar with them, but I guarantee they're there. Well, if they're getting nominated for awards, they're probably spending some money on advertising, first of all, because those are the types of groups that do the awards. But at the end of the day, they're obviously doing a good job, got some people to vote for them. That's who I'm looking to recruit. I'm going to the top 10 with one pitch, and then I'm going to the top 3 with one pitch. I'm going to the runner-up with one pitch, and I'm going to the winner with a different pitch, right? Like, but I'm recruiting them. Or maybe I'm going businesses for sale, right? Why? We just talked about it. Like they got the business for sale, but the question is it selling? Is it sellable? What's the multiple that they're getting? How sexy does their P&L look? And could we jazz it up over a 12-month period and increase the multiple, increase the sale price, and notwithstanding, make it significantly more attractive to a bigger buyer, right? New members of the chamber, new members of BNI, look, on average, they're going to be great clients. Another thing that we said, and a little bit off shoots, and I'll throw it back, but like approaching your business like it's a playoff series. Like when you're down 2-1 late in the game, what do? You go for it. Like watch a hockey game, watch a football game in the last 2 minutes and one team's losing. It's ridiculously common for that team to make a charge and look to score towards the end. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But at the end of the day, because that fear of losing is so much greater than the pleasure of winning, they put the pressure on big time. Or like maybe a better example is you're down. It's a best of 7 baseball series, and the team's down 2-0, right? Well, they don't decide to not show up for game 3 because it feels a little bit hopeless because they got blown out 2 games in a row. What do? They feel the nerves, they feel the excitement. And yes, of course they want to win, but that desire to not lose, significantly greater, far greater, without doubt. So when you go to the networking function, when you make calls, when you approach joint venture partners, when you approach the businesses for sale, the people that are advertising or asking for referrals, from the JV partners or from people that do it like your life depends on it, right? Like it kind of does. Like when a pro athlete loses a series, they feel it for the entire year until they get another shot, right? Sometimes it burns for a lifetime. Think about my poor Blue Jays, right? They lost to the Dodgers. They're not looking so good this year. I don't think they're going to be getting back anywhere near that. And those guys were, basically 2 inches away from winning the World Series and beating the Dodgers. And guess what? Bingo, bango, bongo goes in. Anyways, if you know how it, no doubt you know how it ends, though I'm saying it, but if you're a baseball fan, you know exactly how it ended. The Dodgers won. But anyway, so work out what I'm describing and you're semi-retired for the rest of your life. Like just fall in love with recruiting clients. Okay. Could misconstrued and accidentally called cold calling. It rhymes. Road dog will love it, but it rhymes with cold calling. Like just go after folks, right? But of course, that sends you into a mental loop. Like create positive mental loops for yourself instead of negative ones, right? Negative loops are really bad for your productivity. So Chutes, that's my answer, bud. What do you think?
I love your rhymes. They're so good. Hey, kind of a random question, I guess. Like, if a coach, maybe even their client, because it does happen quite a bit, right? Because typically the coach is like the captain positive and rah rah, we're gonna get your business going. But like,
Yeah.
what like the clients or hey, coaches get it too, right? They get into that. Speaking of cold calling, it's like, ugh, I got a cold call. They get into that negative mental feedback loop, and they know at least they have the self awareness that they want to stop it. What can they do? Do you have any tips on like breaking that negative feedback loop?
Mm. Yeah, I think anxiety is kind of rhymes with anxiety. Like anxiety is the price of ambition. So if you feel anxious, I'd say that it's not the worst thing because you're pushing yourself to achieve and do well, right? So that's a good thing. Definitiveness of purpose is what Napoleon Hill would say, right? Like a man without purpose is controlled by fear, insecurity, envy, all those negative emotions, and that's ultimately what's driving them. Got to lean into your purpose, right? And hopefully your purpose is something similar to ours, but it's like helping business owners thrive when, they're unnecessarily struggling, right? Like, well, gratitude ends suffering. Okay. The end. So go to gratitude. I have an alarm. My daughter makes fun of me all the time, but my alarm, true story, goes off twice a day. And what do? I write down 3 things that I'm grateful for. Do it every day. Do I miss once in a while? Absolutely. I'm driving and it goes off and I forget about it. But I write down 3 things that I'm grateful for twice a day as a frame. Right. So um, maybe here's another one. Like to stop a mental loop, here's something that you can do. So you're in a mental loop and you're just in that anger, frustration, anxious as heck, right? Stop what you're doing and identify 5 things. Like put your feet firmly on the ground will help here. Right? Maybe you're driving. Don't do that. Little brake stand. But put your feet firmly on the ground, ideally. But what you really do, you find 5 things and you just highlight them. So you go light, candle, glass, computer, and then something else. And like focus on each of those 5. And what it does is like it brings you back to center. And I can tell you that your loop will automatically stop. That said, there's a good chance you'll immediately come back to it. So this is something you'll get a little bit better at. But anyway, so you just do that. So if you have a mental loop and you're kind of just in that anger mode, just stop everything you're doing, identify 5 things. Again, the candle, the light, the lamp, etc. And you'll fall out of it immediately. Hopefully stay out of it, but that takes practice. Now, and meditating probably come into it, like meditate for 15 minutes. Um, as I see it, meditating, it's just a constant practice because my mind goes, and I'm guessing yours does too. But it's a constant process of coming back to center, coming back to center, coming back to center. Oh, I do. I concentrate on I breathe out of my, in and out of my nose. And I just concentrate on the little piece of skin, like in between my 2 nostrils. I just think about that. That's me bringing it back to center, and it's wildly calming for me. Um, and a good little thing. And again, do it in an hour is too much for you, and there's a pretty good chance it is. Do it for 5 minutes, do it for 10 minutes, do it for 10, or do it for 15, whatever. And meditation hack that may help you as well when you're listening to a very bad meditator, but somebody's quite committed to it. Count down from 250 to 0. right? So and by the way, count out all numbers. So not 250, 249, but it's 250, 249, 248, 247, all the way down to zero. And by the way, guess what's going to happen? Same thing that happens to me. You lose your spot and can't remember where the heck you are. You just don't worry about it. You just continue whatever number, you know what I mean, roughly that you were at, and then just continue to count down to zero. You will 100% be calm at the end of that. But again, you might go back, once you stop, you might circle back into it. And what do? You just commit to getting a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, and you will. And so, Chutes, I'm going to throw it back to you, but just remember, you're never getting away from three things. What are they? Pain, uncertainty, constant work, right? So don't try would be intelligence, in my opinion, right? So instead of not trying, like dance with it, don't fight it, right? Like, I think intelligence is allowing yourself to go to pain, to go to anxiety, to go to suffering, but not allowing yourself to stay there, right? Like, believe me, somebody who's like retired and has all kinds of money and the big house and three great kids, they have it too, right? Starting and ending with Tony Robbins, right? But what they don't look, what they don't do is they don't stay there. They don't live there. That's where the real ugliness comes. Like mentioned like the loop, right? That's the real messy bit. Remember, nobody's getting out alive, right? So, words of my father, stop taking things so damn seriously. So, anyway, Shits, that's my answer. But dance with it, don't fight it. Might be the right frame.
Okay. Much like you're going to start dancing with, we're going to have a couple of word associations here. And your first word, you ready for it? It rhymes with intelligence.
I'm ready.
You get it? It
Is it
rhymes
right?
with
It's
intelligence. Oh, wait. The word is intelligence.
Nice. Shoots. I can really get into that. That was good. I like. Intelligence. I'll tell you what it's not. It's not being good at science and English in grade school. That's what I'm fairly confident of. Um, Magic is in, well, it kind of is, but the magic is in learning to learn. So if you're good at science, you're good at English in grade school. What you did learn is you learned how to learn. Hopefully not how to memorize. You learned how to learn. That's where the magic is. Like the most intelligent thing I think you could do as a business coach is get amazing at three things and fall in love with them, right? Don't fall in love with business coaching. Fall in love with the tactical necessary steps. And what are they? Number one, fall in love with lead gen. Number two, fall in love with conversion. And number three, fall in love with the fulfillment of the coaching and hopefully installing our operating system with a business owner. Like that's intelligence. In fact, I can tell you, Naval Ravikant, he defines intelligence as getting what you want, right? But then he also says, very importantly, you've got to want the right things, right? Because how many people built big businesses and end up 30 years older, alone, depressed, in poor health, and without deep relationships that they desperately want all of a sudden, but the time has passed, right? Shoots intelligence. I got to say, metacognition. It's like a higher level of intelligence. It's like define it, and I'm not an expert, but it's like observing your thoughts from what I'm going to call a third party perspective, right? So the ability to think about your own thinking, right? So you say to yourself, wait, why did I react in that way? Where you say, I feel angry. What is it that triggered this in me? Right? Or if you're a heavy drinker, it's the wrong question is not why can I not stop drinking? It's what am I hiding from? And that's any addiction, by the way, including your phone and social media. It's not why can I not stop picking up my phone? It's what am I hiding from? Right. And again, I pick up my phone probably as much as you do. You know, believe me, I want to pick it up significantly less, but it's just one of those things, right? I also want to say, like settings, because it's one like go at the end of the day, intelligence is getting what you want and then wanting the right things. Like specific goals are critical to accomplishing them, right? So just a real easy one. We say it a lot. 3 meaningful conversations a day, right? Get If you decide that that's your goal, what do you got to do? No is a decision, yes is a responsibility. You need to say no to everything outside of that specific goal, right? So set your goal. Remember, there's things you can control, things you can't control. You got to set your goals in and around things you can control, right? Um, like maybe I just kind of think like the best definition of wealth is that I've heard is passive income above burn, right? So it's not a number like $10 million or a magical number that you've made up, like, 5 million, 1 million, 10 million, like I just said. It's more of a formula. Like, how many people make $50 million and light it on fire, right? Crazy common. Just think of the Mike Tysons and the Michael Jacksons and so many others. What you got to do is you got to invest in appreciating cash flowing assets. So passive income above burn. The best way to do it, 3 ways to make money. Stocks, real estate, and business. Stocks, you're betting on somebody else. Real estate, you need a boomer 10 years. Business, you could double your money every 30 days for the rest of your life, right? So that, like, you want to create recurring income. I get the attractiveness of real estate, but generally speaking, the richest people in the world are entrepreneurs, right? So getting good at business is a one-way ticket to freedom / wealth, let's say, right? And by the way, I think that's why being a business coach is pure magic. You get an MBA 50 times over while getting paid handsomely from your clients, right? Like, lean into it. Don't lean out of it. Lean into it. Remember, it's not what you earn, it's what you learn. And yes, of course, you need to earn and pay the bills as you move along, but learning is the magical pill of business coaching without doubt, right? I ask people all the time, are you lucky? They say yes. They say no. I say, you got to say yes, right? Otherwise, you're guaranteed not to be lucky. And then you say, okay, well, how can I become more lucky? 3 things. You got to know what you want, why you want it, and then commit to the price to pay in order to get it, right? All of a sudden, guess what? You'll all of a sudden be significantly luckier. Like Chutes, maybe a powerful frame, an intelligent frame. It's I heard a saying, and it's I've got what you'll never have. Think like ... enough, and then take enough and capitalize it, italicize it, bold it, right? Like, it rhymes with the king that knows his limits. The king that knows the limits to his desires can rule a lifetime, but a king without any limits on his desires, ends up in a bad situation, right? Trying to get more and more status and fame and money and women and boats and yachts and cars and property and planes, it tends to end badly, right? So Chutes, I think, intelligence may or may not be getting a little off track here, Chutes, but just create a goal. And then think of a goal line, right? Work towards it without constantly moving the goal line. And I think that's part of being intelligent. Like, you can't expect to put in an average effort and get an exceptional result. Not going to happen for Road Dog. It's not going to happen for me, and it's not going to happen for you. Definitely not going to happen for your client. The problem is they're probably taking that approach. Like, just imagine an athlete that gets the big contract. What does he do? He buys the Lambo, buys the mansion, and starts hitting the clubs and drinking like he's never drank before. He's late for practice, hungover for practice. How do you think his career goes, right? And they think that the coaches and managers don't see it. Like, they haven't seen this play out before, right? Like, when I used to play hockey, when everyone was drinking water, I was always shooting pucks, stick handling in the corner, right? I drank water before and after practice. In fact, I have a really good buddy of mine from the island. His daughter is a goalie, right? She plays goalie with us. She's a pretty darn good one. She's doing a hockey camp, and it's like 2 hours a day of ice time. And he asked me for a little bit of advice to give her. And amongst some other advice I gave her, I told her, or I told him to tell her, get her to drink lots of water in the morning and throughout the week. And when on the ice, when everybody else is grabbing water, she's practicing the drills they were just working on, right? Like, maximize those 2 hours on the ice, because again, she doesn't get a lot of time to get this kind of training, and some of the others do, right? If she can get 30% more out of the same time, remember, it compounds over the course of the week. And imagine how much better she's going to get a result of not spending. Like most kids spend 2 hours on the rink and 30 minutes standing up against the boards chatting, right? Well, I wouldn't do that, right? Which, by the way, is fine, right? But if you want to be elite, this is an opportunity for you to get that mental, that physical edge. And maybe for a business coach Shoots, it's wake up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and get 30% more out of your day, right? That could be your competitive advantage. Or maybe you're a night owl, okay? So you're going to just work a little bit later and a little bit more concentrated when you're there. Bingo, bango, bongo, your results. Remember, 1% a day for 365 days gets you 37x improvement. Like lean into that. And by the way, maybe Shoots, I got to throw this back to you, but maybe the most intelligent thing I can say to a business coach is just fall in love with cold calling, cold outreach, and lead gen, right? Virtual business coaching master, I always give the homework. Getting clients is easy. Getting clients is fun. Say it 100 times to yourself in the morning when you wake up. And I think you're going to find that the frame suddenly changes. It's not cold calling. Don't look at it as cold calling. It's helping people every day and moving your mission forward. It's working towards your purpose. The conversations and the relationships that you build over an extended period of time are going to do what? And it rhymes with compounding. And compounding is the eighth wonder of the world. So she said, just improve your dark side might also be something like you don't rise to the level of your dreams, you drop to the level of your standards. The world is a big fat mathematical equation from what I can see. Learn math and understand the foundation of everything around you is what I would say, Shoots. What do you think?
Speaking of math, let's do that one. Let's go into how do you define the word math, Big Shoots?
Math. There's something I'm not very good at. That's how I describe it, Shoots. Okay, so that's it. Word association, math. Do I got it, Shoots?
Yeah, that's the one. But you were just talking about compounding. You were talking about math. Like, I'd be curious if your definition and when you think math, how you think of it versus maybe everybody else.
All right. Ray Dalio, Zuckerberg, the Google guys, Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, they all have mathematician level math skills. I can tell you, like my dad is an elite math guy. You introduce me to an elite poker player, and I'm going to introduce you to somebody who's great at math. Yes, there's some chance involved, but it's a game of percentages all day long. So maybe for my fellow non-math nerds, the good news is you don't need to be PhD level at math. But I would suggest you get elite at approximates. Like you don't need to be right. You need to be close. So you kind of get your math right? Practice and lean in to the foundation of it. And quite frankly, the good news is they're literally equations, and we learned them in grade school, right? And thinking in percentages is straight from my book on accounting. Like increasing margins from 10 to 15% is not a 5% increase, it's a 50% increase, right? You get a landing page and it's got a 4% conversion rate and you increase that to 6%. It's not a 2% increase, it's a 50% increase, right? So if your client made $100,000 of profit last year and they have 20% margins, you increase the margins to 30%. It's not a 10% bump. It's not a $10,000 bump. It's a 50%, $50,000 bump. And it's easy to do when you understand the premise of it. And by the way, when you use our operating system and install it, right? So train yourself and start thinking in percentages, and your world will become a lot more profitable, in my opinion. And remember, the language of business is not sales and marketing, despite what most people would have you think. The language of business, and this is according to Warren Buffett and some of the greatest business minds of all time, it is accounting. Accounting is just math in many ways, right? And again, for the non-accountants listening, I assure you accounting is 10% as difficult as you likely think it to be. The foundational stuff that you need to know, it's just really a game of addition and subtraction, maybe a little bit of multiplication in there. pluses and minuses. They make it confusing on purpose, but once you get your head around it, you're golden. Like compounding, the eighth wonder of the world. It's just math. You double a penny every day for 30 days, and what do you end up with? 5 million. You go to day 31 and you're over 10 million, right? The problem is it's incredibly lame for the first 25 days, but you got to stick with it, right? It's the magic of, like, it's the eighth wonder of the world. What else could you say, right? But remember, small incremental changes in multiple areas at once give you a compounding financial return without the use of time, right? That's the foundation of our operating system. In fact, shoots, when I talk about compounding, there's a famous story. Sir Dave Brailsford, I believe his name is, but he's an English. He basically took over the English cycling team, right? And it sucked for like 50, 75 years, like literally sucked, right? Like bad, the results. This was a very famous story. And anyways, he took it over and he applied what he called the aggregation of marginal gains. And he basically, um, he took over. He made 1% improvements in like 100 different areas. Like he redesigned the bike seats and the helmets. He rubbed alcohol on the tires to make them super clean. He used lighter, more aerodynamic racing suits. He taught them how to wash their hands to avoid colds during competitions, custom pillows for their sleep, something to do with their socks and their shoes. He painted the inside of the truck so you could see the dust that would fall onto the bikes, right? Like it sounds like crazy and, too OCD for most, right? But these hidden changes multiplied to provide like needle moving results. And by the way, they dominated the Olympics within about 5 years of him taking over. He had a 10-year plan, but the results came in about 5 years. I think it was Beijing and the London Olympics. And I think it was the London Olympics that he was really working towards. And they knighted the guy, right? Like now he's Sir David Brailsford. So anyway, so that's like, as an example, small incremental changes in multiple areas give you the compounding effect, and it works in cycling, it works in sport, um, it works in business, falling off a log. Anyway, um, so that's what I'd say. Shoot, just look, success leaves clues, and the wildly rich are math nerds. Instead of leaning out, lean into math, just like you'd lean into learning Spanish or learning French or learning another language, right? It's like that, only way more profitable for you and way more profitable for your clients. Remember, 1% a day for 365 days, 37x improvement. Shoots. So anyways, what do you think? That's my answer on math. What do you think?
You knew it was going to be a gooder, that's for sure. Hey, listen, when you're talking about the non-franchise franchise, we're talking about, obviously there's a lot of people worried about AI proofing your business, if you will. Is there a specific sort of a niche? Like if you were to start a business tomorrow, is there a
Yeah.
specific niche that you would go into that you'd be like, yeah, this is going to stand the test of time? Like, Karl Bryan, I'm going to drop you somewhere tomorrow. What business are you starting?
Okay, good question. First, you just said it. Like I'd want it to be AI proof for sure. Um, I wouldn't want it to be overly complicated. I would go to something probably a little bit simple. Um, and like niches that are going like the niches, let's just go like what are venture capital private equity firms kind of going into? And I can tell you home services like nothing else. Think electrical, think painting, think fencing, think landscaping, right? Like service-based businesses, the dog groomer, the car. I got my buddy's kid into a business. He's killing it. He's cleaning boats, right? So a boat detailer, a car detailer. Look, AI proof oil field services, aging population like adult care centers, adult disability would have to be one. Like AI can help you build the company, but there's nothing like sitting and holding somebody's hand at 3 o'clock in the morning, right? AI is never going to be able to do that. The robot, hopefully, is never going to do that. Not going to quite work. We got a buddy who's in transport refrigeration. Um, I would be thinking about that. Security patrol, that sort of thing. Fire suppression, environmental cleanup. Foundational repair might be one you haven't thought of, but I can tell you, like, job start, like somebody calls you for a foundational repair job, starts at like, oh, it's going to be $3,000 and ends up being a $30,000 contract plus, 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 plus. Um, but I think Chutes, what, like non-franchise, franchise and whatnot, I'd really be going into a franchisable style business. I think pest control, HVAC, roofing, lawn care, cleaning, commercial, residential, window washing, a garage organizer, renovations. Like, think about, like, when cleaning the garage. Okay, so you're going to be a garage organizer. When cleaning the garage, you're going to find all kinds of stuff that people don't want. Old golf clubs, old bikes, old machinery, old tools, right? What could you do? Buy them for dirt cheap, if not for free, by the way. And what are you able to do? Then you start selling it on the side, right? All of a sudden, see how that business could be wildly profitable pretty quick. Like a closet organizer, we have like a $50,000 marketing system, for a closet organizer. The exact same thing. There's going to be clothes and purses and all kinds of stuff in that closet that they don't want. Get them for free, buy them for dirt cheap. What do? You turn around and sell it. And so AI not coming for these style of businesses for a long time. The robots are coming and whatnot, but um, that's a conversation maybe for another day. But these types of businesses are going to be pretty AI proof for a decent period of time, and that's where I'm going. And maybe Chutes also, that when I go to, like, I don't want to start an engineering firm. Why? It's just the complexity of the business, and then notwithstanding the complexity of the staff required, right? McDonald's is McDonald's for a reason. They hire 16-year-olds. 1-800-GOT-JUNK is 1-800-GOT-JUNK for a reason, because a 16-year-old dropout can be wildly successful. And by the way, the 16-year-old dropouts tend to do a significantly better in a line of business like that than the MBA type folks, right? So yes, message, simple businesses over complicated businesses is something I'm thinking about. So there you go.
Yeah, and I just wonder how much of that right now, because the whole focus is on AI, and like when you're starting a business, the crazy part is you could start a business, you could leverage AI, which I can guarantee you half of these businesses aren't even close to, right? Like, they're just not embracing it. And I think just by having a few automations and having some AI integrated into your business, you're going to be light years ahead of absolutely everybody. So,
100%.
yeah. Anyways, so someone asked me, and you said you disagree with systems set you free. Can you expand on that line of thinking?
It's been a while since I said that, but yes. Okay, so systems set you free. Look, it's partially true for sure. Like, I built a wildly systematized business on both sides, right? For us and our clients, but it gives for full creative freedom. Here's what I do say: systems don't set you free. Systems stifle creativity, right? But context is everything. So systems stifle creativity. If you own McDonald's and hire 16-year-olds, systems set you free. But if you own a business with any level of professionalism, systems stifle creativity and piss off A-grade talent, right? And they leave and they go somewhere else where the systems are not designed to control them, right? Like, you build a football team through the draft, first round draft picks, right? Well, you build a business with first round draft picks, A-grade talent. So pros want to be given a goal and an outcome, and then they want to be left alone to complete the task. They don't want to be micromanaged. It drives them nuts. Like, just think of a star running back runs a play, but he needs to ad lib when the coverage breaks down, right? If he had to keep running through the 3 hole because that was the play, despite the fact that the 280-pound linebacker is standing there waiting for him, what are they going to do? They're going to go to a different team. They're going to go to a different coach. They're going to go to a different college, a different high school, a different team, right? Like, I've got over 30 staff, right? Danny Devine, she's worked for me for 14 years. Tori's worked for me for 10, 11. Chris Kling's worked for me for 12 years. Craig McLean has been here 18 years, like my little brother. Courtney Lodge, 6 to 7 years, I'm going to guess. John Moore, He's been a client for, I think, 12 years and now works for us. And, he's a pure rock star. Like the list goes on. You build a team with first round draft picks and you keep them around, right? Like the USA is USA because they have PhDs and MBAs and the elite of the elite of the elite fighting to immigrate, right? Well, translation? USA collected first round draft picks from all over the world and they had their pick before anybody else got to the draft table, right? Like Elon Musk and Jensen Huang, who I'd say are, top two CEOs in the world right now, right? Well, they're both immigrants, right? They weren't born in the USA. That's where they live. Warren Buffett's last trade on his career was Google, Alphabet, right? Well, Sergey Brin of Google, guess what? He's an immigrant. Vlad, I don't know his last, Vlad Tenev, I think his name is, but Robinhood, the guy who's heading up Robinhood, Vlad. By the way, a stock that I may or may not suggest you buy and hold. I got to tell you, Vlad is a lot like Mark Zuckerberg, and that the guy's very aggressive, very good. You may or may not love the business model, and I've got some challenges with it. But at the end of the day, I can tell you that Robinhood is a company that is on the rise. And guess what? The guy's an immigrant, right? Amazon, probably another stock that I'd look at. They're going to win with AI in 4 different ways. Well, Jeff Bezos, he's not an immigrant. At least I don't think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Like he was born in the USA, but his parents are, right? I think they're from Cuba. So the list is a long and distinguished one of star immigrants. Like I live in the Caribbean. It's a pretty small place, so drinking with the governor beside you is not uncommon, right? And the governor, by the way, is the equivalent of the president, right? On the island. I tell anybody that listens, if you want this place to take off in a meaningful way, we need a 20-year plan, and it starts with collecting first-round draft picks, right? So if you have a degree from Harvard, MIT, Stanford, or you got some magical AI, artificial intelligence powers, or you're into robotics, permanent residence stamped on the spot. Say, please work here, please move here, and please have children. And they're going to be wildly intelligent children, we could only assume. And that's how you build a thriving economy. So just select first round draft picks is kind of the message. And by the way, it's possible the LA Dodgers are listening to my podcast, our podcast, and taking this advice because they're doing a pretty good job of collecting some pretty good. I don't know who's going to beat the Dodgers in the playoffs, but if somebody does, I want to see it. But Chutes, the premise, smart people don't want to be controlled. That's where, the systems stifle creativity. And that's kind of the message. Like systems set you free, but they stifle creativity of first round draft picks and A grade players. And your greatest successes will come from other people, translation staff. So you want to bring them on, you want to give them an outcome, you want to leave them alone, and that's that. And that's why businesses need a business coach because they need discernment. They need somebody who can see the forest through the trees. So anyway, Shits, that's my answer. There's nuances to it, but that's my answer. But
Well, I think the forest through the trees is a very comforting image and very comforting mindset as we all start to slow down and get ready to relax with Karl Bryan's Moment of Zen.
moment is Zen, Shits. Actually, well, okay. So let me give you a moment of Zen. So I grew up with my dad saying the Serenity Prayer a lot, right? It's part of, he's like the grand poobah of AA, been in AA for 54 years, right? Still goes to a daily meeting, which spins people out. And no, he's not interested in going back to alcohol. He's when somebody's having a challenge staying in AA and staying sober, they end up having coffee with my dad. But anyway, so he says, I think people have, what I read. So he'd say that all the time, right? So he said, people skip the Serenity Prayer, and instead they pray for rage to fight against what they can't change, the apathy to ignore what they can, and the sheer ignorance to not know the difference. All right. So anyway, I made a bit of meal of that, but no doubt you get the idea. Not a good idea. Don't do that. That is not Zen-like. Shits, what I want to say, easy to think about mental health and going to a therapist and getting expensive meds, right? But going for a walk is free. Stand up. I listen to stand up comedy every single day. Scrolling Facebook and social media, whatever. I got comedy all over me. I'll go to YouTube and I will watch, 5 minutes of Bill Burr, whoever. It's free. And quite frankly, it gets you, I mean, it just gets you it gets me into a positive state, or maybe taking a nap. And that's not for everybody. And I get that, right? But like taking a nap, resting, calling a friend you haven't spoken to in a while, humming, which might sound weird, but I can tell you it's wildly calming. Science behind that, swimming, hiking, biking, all free, and they work lights out, right? But people give away their control and try hand it to the therapist, to the doctors, right? Like I saw a prezzo I did many years ago, and I watched with a kind of crazy combination of excitement, maybe recognition and gratitude. But I knew the guy speaking, and I remember like his passion, his energy, his sense of humor, and certainly this desire to help those in the audience. But I talked about going like 7 levels deep, right? So someone says they want to make $1 million this year, right? What I would say is, why does that matter to you? And then they answer. And then I ask again, why does that matter to you? You go like 7 levels deep, because people answer with surface level answers: more money, better business, bigger house for the family. They want to move. They want to sell their company, right? If you stay with them, you don't jump in, you don't comment, you don't correct them, you don't rush them, right? Which is usually done from an effort of looking smart, right? But their deeper meaning will surface, right? So they start to tell the truth at like the 5th, the 6th, and the 7th, right? Like, why does that matter to you? Freedom is the end game they all kind of get to. But the problem is everybody's got a different definition of freedom. Road Dog's got a different definition. I've got a different definition, and you'll have one, right? So will your clients. So selling a house is like, I don't know, the life that no longer matches the goal, right? Or buying a house is becoming the father, the mother, the husband, the wife they've been striving, to be. Selling the business provides the time and space to have a holiday. Like for me, success it's to not have the instability I had as a child, right? I had a broken home and estranged relationships. My brother committed suicide when I was 16. My poor old mom, kind of drank herself to death as self-imposed punishment. It's like just stick with it, right? Like stick with the house, stay in the house, stay in the relationship, stay in touch, stay the course, stay in the business. That's where like my insatiable appetite for business comes from. Like, am I perfect at it, by the way? Hard no, but I stick around as my operating system. And I think most people default to leave, quit, kind of get out of jail free. And you need a why in order to have that stick-to-itness, right? People want to be led, but they don't want to be controlled. What do you got to do? You got to lead them. And by the way, leading with your words is good, but lead them with your actions. Be the person that makes 20 phone calls a day come hell or high water, or has those 3 meaningful conversations every single day. You will inspire the hell out of the people around you, not to mention yourself, right? Like, remember, as a real mentor, I tell you where to look, but not what to see. All right. So when I ask, why does that matter to you? Why does that matter to you? Why does that matter to you? I'm showing you where to look. You're showing them where to look, but not what to see. And a really example that comes to mind, like, I don't know look, you go to 1986. Here's what the news said. I guarantee it. Jobs disappearing. Things are too expensive, families struggling, stock market at record highs. 2006. What did the news say? Jobs disappearing, things are too expensive, families struggling, the stock market's booming, right? Today, jobs are disappearing, things are too expensive, families struggling, stock market at record highs, right? Ignore the noise. Just Jeff Bezos, what would he say if he was here guiding us? Step by step, ferociously. Like, just keep going. I always say, like, a coach that goes from day to day, week to week, month to month, quarter to quarter, and just, deciding whether or not they're going to continue to go, you're already losing, right? What do you got to do? You just got to go all in. You got to lean out instead of lean in. Build your skills, build your discipline, build your consistency, and just help people solve problems. Like, that's the just stick-to-itness is what I'm trying to bring across there. But anyway, Chutes, that's my, I don't know how zen that is, bud, but that's what I got. But I just want to finish, but the big one, going to the therapist and getting the expensive meds, it's like taking a nap, going for a walk, calling a friend, resting, etc. Like all of these, you never go for a walk and then say, I wish I didn't go for a walk, right? To be wildly calming. So lean into what you can control, not what you can't control. So that's my zen thing, Chutes. What do you think?
I would say that the prime example of the, as you call it, stick with itness is this very podcast for how long we've been going, and we just keep pressing on. It's hilarious. How many years have we been doing this? How many episodes have we had? How many times have we changed some of the formats within it? But we just keep on trucking. And I think there's definitely something there for sure. So
yeah. Well, Chutes, and again, hundreds of thousands. I don't even know where we're at, right? Again, it's not there. By the way, I listen to, I don't listen to the podcast, right? Very good reason, because I'll probably never do another one. But I use the word right. I could not believe how often I use the word right. I was like, oh my gosh. But you know what? We keep pounding along. Is it perfect? Hard no, but step by step, ferociously shoot. So good on you.
Well,
and I agree.
Dude, we're probably within the top 1% to 2% of just sticking it through, because of how many 100%. Podcasts are out there and then they disappear. And you know what I mean? Like there's not 100%. A lot of podcasts that stick around in the super long term like we have. So there you go. There you go. Well, all right, everybody. Well, thanks for hanging with us for another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. As I always say, here's the deal. If you want more of this every single day, Karl sends out that daily email packed with coaching strategies, client wins, and the stuff that's actually moving the needle right now. So head over to focus.com, get on the inside. It is where the real magic happens. And hey, if this episode helped you, do us a solid, share with another coach who needs to hear it. Leave us a review if you're feeling generous. We're on a mission to impact as many coaches as possible, and you sharing this show makes that happen. That is it for another week, folks. We will see you in the next episode. And remember, progress equals happiness. Take care, everybody.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.